And then for our pastors, Pastor Mark and Pastor Linda Coward, that gives us the opportunity to do these things. We're very grateful. We're glad that we get to put this before the body of Christ. Yeah, please give them a hand as well. I'm not going to read it, but on the screen you'll see a couple things throughout the night. One is our mission statement, why Culture Impact Team does what we do. And so you'll see that on the screen. That way I don't have to try and regurgitate it from memory. There it is. That's why we exist. That's why we continue to do some of the things that we do. And we want to continue to do these things. And so we thank you for your support, for showing up tonight, for showing up all the times that we do things, as there's people that are here every time we open the doors to one of these events. And so I'd like to bring up Pastor Calvin. He's one of our pastors on staff here, and he is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer.
Everyone is standing. Could you please remove your hats? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please remain standing for the prayer? Father, tonight we give you praise and thanksgiving. Lord, we thank you that you said we should pray for the peace of the city in Jeremiah 29. And so, Lord, we pray tonight that you would just continue to bless this wonderful city of Colorado Springs. And Father, I pray tonight for all the candidates, for their families, Lord, for all of their staff, that, Lord, that you would just bless them and surround them and keep them healthy. And Lord Jesus, just bless them in a special way. Bless our time tonight. Lord Jesus, let us have, Lord, a good discussion, good debate. And Lord Jesus, we just ask that you would protect every person that's here. Bless those, Lord, that are watching. And Lord, help everyone tonight, Lord, to hear and make the wise decision on who our next mayor should be. Is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Play ball. All right. So I'm going to go over again kind of how this event will move forward. So we will give each candidate 2 minutes for opening statements. Now, we do have someone to help them along in case they want to go beyond 2 minutes. And so directly in front of them is our timekeepers. When there's 10 seconds left, they will hold the flag up like this. And when they are done, when that time has run out, they will wave the flag. Yes? Does everyone understand the waving of the flag? All right. We're going to trust that they understand the waving of the flag. We don't allow jeering, booing, hissing. Notice, I said we don't allow jeering, booing, hissing. I did not say cheering, jeering, booing. You can, by all means, cheer if there's an answer that, or your favorite candidate that you want to cheer for. We want you to definitely do that. But if there's, tomatoes that you want to throw, I would advise just hold on to it till later, much later, say at somebody else's event. All right? So they'll be given 2 minutes for opening statements. We have 9 candidates here today. You will notice there are a couple candidates missing. One has sent us a video, so after everyone has given their opening statements, we will show the video of the candidate for TIG, and then we'll go into questions. So I will explain this again before we go into it, but the first question is a two-parter. They will be given 2 minutes to answer the first question. After that, every question, they will have 1 minute, that is 60 seconds, to answer those questions. We will have a number come up on the screen. If you like to text in a question, you're going to be the ones directing the ship. So we want to make sure that you text in a question. If there is a question that you would like to ask a specific candidate, I'd ask that you please save that until afterwards when they are at their tables. Every question that we ask this evening will be of a more general nature. So, no direct questions. Please make sure your question is of a more general nature. Are we all good? I'm so blessed to see all of you tonight. They're smiling. Everyone's smiling. The candidates are smiling. They're ready. You guys ready? All right, so we're going to do opening statements. We will start with Sally. When we go into the questions, we will snake that. So we'll go down, come back up, so forth. Ready? Sally, take it away.
Yes, thank you. And I'm wearing red just in case the tomatoes come forward. So, well, God bless you all for being here tonight. And thank you for the invitation for us to be able to share our vision for Colorado Springs in the next 4 years going forward. You know, as I look at public service, it's really about family, faith, and service. I have unique experiences, and I think I'd like to share a little bit of that with you. I've been married for 42 years. I'm a military wife. My husband's right there taking a nice photograph of me. And I'm also a small business owner. I've owned my own business for 36 years in the hospitality industry, and customer service has been number one in my career. In addition to that, I accidentally stepped into potential closure of a fire station on the west side and really got catapulted into trying to make a difference for Colorado Springs by helping our emergency workers and passing public safety taxes that could help our firefighters and police officers do a better job. But as it resulted in not only city council, but also as a county commissioner, I was also elected by my peers in National Association of Counties to represent 3,069 counties nationwide. So I served in that executive position. And then last, when I left the county, I went to work for U.S. Department of Agriculture, and I was very honored to be appointed by the president to serve as the USDA Rural Development State Director. So I was a state executive director over 7 offices. What I bring is really the experience, the knowledge, the skill set to be the next mayor of Colorado Springs, to be our mayor and our voice. And as we look at how we're doing this, I thank you very much for being here.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Dalby, and I'm a sinner in need of a savior. We all are. Too often, though, we look for our savior on the ballot box instead of in the Bible. Like the angel told Mary at the tomb, do not look for him here, he is risen. A little about myself. I am a native and a small business owner. I own the RV storage across the street. If you go out on Dublin and cross Powers, the next street is named Dalby because when you're here first, they name stuff after you. So we've been here since Powers was just a couple of wheel ruts in the weeds. I have a degree in biochemistry and a master's in computer information systems. I spent a career managing large projects and bringing them in on time and under budget, which is in contradistinction to some of the people here who have been in office for a very long time, and we still have the same problems that we had then. You know, when ancient Israel chose a king, they demanded a king, they chose him because of his height. As the tallest candidate in the race, I've got to say, that's stupid, right? Man looks at the outer things, but God examines the heart. And while we can't look, you can't see our hearts, we can't see each other's hearts, we've gotten to know each other fairly well over the course of this campaign. And while objectively, I think I'm the most qualified candidate, there are some other people up here who have shown a lot of heart, and they've shown that they care about our city and they deserve a role. Sally has taken $250,000 from one developer. Wayne has taken $500,000 from another. Those are not gifts, those are investments, and they expect a profit. But some of the other people, Lojinos, I love you. I'd love to ask you to join my team and be my chief of staff. And I got a couple more seconds, but I got the other people, we'll talk.
So it begins. Daryl Glenn. My name is Daryl Glenn, and I am an unapologetic Christian, constitutional, conservative, pro-life, Second Amendment loving veteran. I tell you that because there's a story behind each and every one of those things that I've just listed. But the thing that I'm most proud of is that God has placed so many people in my life. And I am, quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing how Colorado Springs is somehow this racist, sexist, homophobic community. It is time for us to stand up and say, that is not our community, and we are not going to take that anymore. I'm in this race because I want Colorado Springs to be the safest city in the nation. The other thing that I'm fired up about that we haven't even talked about at any of the candidate forums is COVID. And COVID has reached areas of our lives, and I have seen weak-kneed politicians buckle and basically infringe upon our fundamental rights. And I'm in this race to basically stand up for our religious liberty and make sure that that doesn't happen. We want to be very clear that Colorado Springs is the home to the defenders of freedom and liberty, and I can tell you I'm going to stand up for home rule authority. And I can tell you, if anything comes down from the federal and state level, I'm going to fight it. I'm here to serve you. God bless each and every one of you. Go to darylglenforcolorado.com.
Good evening, and thanks for having us here tonight. So I'm Lojinos Gonzalez Jr., and I'm running for mayor of Colorado Springs because I believe in service to others and giving back to my community. I did that in the military, serving, giving back. Went to the Air Force Academy, loved the area, served my country overseas, the Middle East, Latin America, where when I was the director of intelligence, we had an operation that resulted in the successful rescue of 3 American hostages and the amazing highlight getting to see those guys come back home. I've done service to others as a volunteer teacher. Thank you. As a volunteer Sunday school teacher at my church and as a reader lecturer at my church. I've done it serving others in the south side of the Springs as a teacher, and I do it now as a county commissioner. I believe I have that broad experience, leadership skills, and conservative values that best matches our community. I will be prioritizing public safety and fighting crime, like I did in the military when I was a counter-drug analyst and officer. Fighting the drug traffickers, the human trafficking, I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to prioritize our roads and infrastructure because we need to make sure that your priorities are the priorities of the city. I'm going to make sure we address water and growth issues. And I have leadership, record of leadership and successful leadership. Water issues down in Fountain, we've fixed the water aquifer and make sure everybody's have safe drinking water. The fires down the 117 and as well as the Carson Midway fires, making sure people got back on their feet after that. And when the shutdowns came from the state and COVID, I was the loudest voice pushing back. And you saw that. We sued the state as a county commissioner because I asked us to, and we won that lawsuit against Polis. When we had the mandates come down, I went on the record from the dais and on television, and I told the governor he could take his mandates, and I would not comply, and he could take his mandates and his mask mandates, and he could stick it. Because I will stand up and be a representative for you.
Lawrence Joseph Martinez, praise the Lord. Every morning I wake up and I thank him for allowing me to wake up. Every night I close my eyes and I thank him for taking care of myself and my children and those within my community. I was a nurse for 25 years. 5 years of that I did end-of-life care. So I realize what it is for people who need to recognize using their last parts of their life to enjoy. El Pomar Foundation, 17 years, Native American Council, Navajo. I've done programs for kids. Rocky Mountain Knights is an organization that I have. We did inversion, second chance through judicial education. I educated over 6,000 kids. What happens when you go into the system? Saving Sally and Little Jimmy is a program we're working on now in which we're going to teach 5-year-olds to 18 first aid and CPR. So many grandparents are taking care of their grandkids. So many kids are taking care of their siblings during the summer. We want to arm them with the knowledge and the ability to take care of each other. Julie and Friends, an autistic children's community, is also one of my programs. You know, like God said, share your love, and that's what I do. I know what we need to do for the city because I ran in 2015 and 2019. I recognize what we need to do. It doesn't have to be somebody who's been in office before, just somebody who cares for the city, who has the right ideas, somebody who's just like you, who realizes what we need to do. We all need to take our responsibility and make this city better. The mayor can't do it by himself, and if they say they can, it's not true. It takes you guys as well to be able to help whoever becomes mayor what direction we need to go in. So thank you very much, and what a beautiful place to be to have this debate.
I'm Jim Miller. I feel a little weird not being able to stand up and talk. I guess it's a rule or something. It feels disrespectful to you. Sorry. I'm accustomed to doing that when I stand up and speak to other people. So I started running for mayor because they moved 4 child rapists in next door to my house, and my daughter's a victim of it, and nobody in the city, the police department, probation officers, nobody would take my call, the mayor, nothing. And the type of person I am, I'm a Marine, a father, an uncle, a brother-in-law. I work, I'm a veteran. I work every day. I was late in here working. I work for myself. My boss is kind of a jerk. He doesn't give me any days off. He keeps riding me and making me finish projects. I don't really like him. He doesn't give me vacations either. Terrible boss. So I'm doing this because they don't listen to people like me and people like us that live in the neighborhoods and the communities that deal with the stuff, the thieves, the addicts, the rapists, the vagrants, the panhandlers. It's all just numbers in a game. It's a bunch of career professional politicians, and we're nothing more than funding for them. We're the bank of the people. We fund everything, and we get almost nothing in return. I find most of that to be disrespectful to us because most of us in the community, we're the ones that build it. We're the ones that pay for it. We're the ones that fund it. I didn't ask for a single working person's money for anything with my campaign. I'm not paid by anybody. I don't owe any favors. I'd suggest with all this stuff, you look at the people that do with their campaign financial sheets and you see who's bought and paid for, who owes favors and stuff like that. You also, right? We know I'm right on that one. You also take a look up here and look at everybody. You look and see if you were broke down, out of fuel, somebody was hurting you or something, who would stop and take a punch in the face to try to prevent something from happening to you in the real world? You look and think if your car was broke down, out of fuel, who would push it for you, okay?
Thank you very much. My name is Christopher Mitchell. I'm running for mayor to bring what I call vision, perspective, and what I call style to this office. And I'm going to talk about all 3 of those. First of all, a vision. General Palmer had a vision that we'd be a community that would be planned and integrated into the natural beauty that surrounds us. And I want to be a mayor that will recapture that and inspire the citizens of this city to own that vision. Not just hear about it, but own that vision. And then a perspective. A perspective that that I would like to bring to this office is the citizen viewpoint. Is that when we elect people to office and they get into that office, they somehow, some way forget about your voice. And as mayor, if elected, I will not forget about you. I want to listen to your voice now and later and throughout the term as mayor. And then I'm going to talk about a style. I'm an engineer by trade, so therefore in this office I will be practical and consistent. Practical with budgets, practical with how the departments will be moved forward, and practical with what we can actually do as a community. It's that simple. There's no super mayor on this stage tonight. We need to have a mayor that's going to be listening to your voice after that person is elected. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I got my start in this city as a pastor. So it's a joy to be on this stage and to be in this house. My name is Yemi, and the first thing you need to know about me is I love this city. I do. I'm running for mayor because my city, our city, needs my leadership. And here's what I mean. When you think about the issues that are in front of us, infrastructure challenges, our aging infrastructure, our economic vitality, and public safety reality, and then you put those issues in the backdrop of this new cultural, political, and social climate, it makes the job harder. And Colorado Springs needs a leader with a proven record of getting things done with all the complexities of the times of today. And that's the leader I've been in this city, and that's what you can expect out of my administration. A little bit more about me. I'm a husband to an incredible woman. Her name is Abby. She's an ICU nurse. We are parents to 3 young kids, 9, 5, and 3, and the struggle is real. Yes, I see all the parents laughing because you get it. I moved to this city, as I talked about, as a pastor, as a church planter, and then I worked for the oldest church in town, and now I'm also a teaching pastor at my church. I'm a business owner. I own 3 businesses. I co-founded a nonprofit, COS I Love You, and I'm the only candidate that's actually worked inside of city government. So here's the thing. Here's where I'm going to land. While I may be a political outsider, I'm a seasoned city leader. President Reagan came to show that good leadership doesn't just require experience and the ballot, but the ability to bring the best people around the table to solve our city's toughest problems. And that's what you can expect from me as your mayor. Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for hosting this forum, as you have a number of others in the past. I appreciate it. It's good to be back. My name is Wayne Williams. I am running for City Council. My website is winwithwayne.org for those who want more information. You're mayor. You're right. So I am on City Council, which is what I wanted to talk about, because I think one of the best things you can do in examining someone is to see what they've done. So let me tell you what we've done on City Council. We've added 62 new police, 66 firefighters, 3 new fire stations. We have emphasized public safety. As a member of City Council, each year I sponsor the Religious Liberty Acknowledgement, a special recognition of religious liberty, and we bring pastors in to recognize the importance of government, realizing that there are limits on government power, and those limits must be blocked by the First Amendment. I believe very strongly in making sure that we protect the rights we have as Americans and as citizens. Holly and I moved to this community a little over 30 years ago. I'd never been here before. I fell in love with it. I saw the beauty of the places and the beauty of the people. And we raised our 4 kids here, all of whom graduated from Rampart High School, just a little bit away. And this is home. A couple years after I moved here, Bob Isaac, who was then the mayor, asked me to serve on the Colorado Springs Housing Authority Board. And we worked to do things like have Creekside at Norwood, which is an affordable housing project designed so that enlisted personnel had an opportunity to live off base. And we specifically worked with Peterson Air Force Base to do it. As a county commissioner, I worked to make sure that we as a community address transportation issues with the Pikes Peak RTA. I want to continue to work to serve as your next mayor. Thank you.
Okay, now we will have a video from another candidate. And so guys, please be patient while we bring that up.
The state of being free from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority in one's way of life, behavior, or political views. Hi, I'm John Tick Tigan, running for mayor of Colorado Springs. In March of 2020, we the people, the most free and liberating country in the world, realized we willingly surrendered our rights to liberty for security. Churches were shut down, leading people to spiritual starvation at a time of crisis, when what we needed was hope. Schools were shut down, leading children down a path of stunted social and cognitive development, illiteracy, and mental health issues. All small businesses were shut down except for liquor stores, marijuana dispensaries, major businesses, and corporations. As a result, 30% of small businesses closed permanently. Additionally, domestic violence and child abuse increased more than 2-fold. This great nation and all that it stands for can only survive if the citizens are brave enough to defend it. We are responsible for our future. Our nation is founded on principles of individual liberty and governmental accountability. Americans are most successful when we self-determine our goals and take ownership of our future and successes. We are accountable for the future of America and the next generation. With progressive ideologies surrounding us in society, we the people have the power to influence government and change politics. It's up to you, the constituents of Colorado Springs, to decide. Do you want to vote for a politician, one who will say or do anything to get elected or gain power? Or do you want to elect a statesman, someone who does everything for the common good of the people they represent? If so, help me stand up for what's right and defeat the issues facing this city. Vote for me, John Tig Tigan, April 4th.
Okay, once again, I want to go over the rules of the questions. So the first two questions, question one is a two-parter. You will have 2 minutes to answer question one. The next question and every question after that, you will have 1 minute to answer. Those will come from, questions will actually come from the audience. As I mentioned, we will snake. And so we will begin with Sally, go all the way down to Wayne, and come back. The first two questions will be answered by each candidate. When we get into the questions from the audience, there will be 1 question per 2 candidates. Oof. Let's do 1 question per 3 candidates. There's 9 of you. So we'll do 1 question per 3 candidates, so each 3 of you will answer the same question. So when we come to that part of it, I'll remind you, and I'll say the first question will be answered by Sally, Mr. Dalby, and Mr. Glenn. Sorry, and Mrs. Clark. All right? The Bible tells us in Exodus 18:21 that we're to choose from among us capable men, trustworthy, not willing to take a bribe, and more importantly, that fear God. All right? So be mindful of those things as you listen to the answers of these questions. And so we'll begin with the first question. Again, that is a two-parter. Every candidate will answer. The second question will begin with Wayne. Every candidate will answer that one as well.
So 1 question for the first question?
See how that's okay. First question is a two-parter. You'll have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Everyone will answer it. The second question is not a two-parter. It's a one-part question. And it will begin with Wayne, and everyone will have 1 minute beyond that for every question after that. All right, ready?
I guess so.
Okay. How would you implement the authority given to you by the structure of home rule in Colorado Springs? And how might you have utilized it in the recent past?
That's the second one. Okay. So home rule authority actually rests with local government, and I have always been a proponent for local control. When the state wanted to clamp down on us to take away some of our powers with regard to county government and taking care of our most vulnerable kids, I fought back with my fellow county commissioners to say to the governor, at that time it was Governor Ritter, no, we can do it better because we can work with a faith-based community. We know our communities best. And so I believe that home rule is one of the most important things that cities have in terms of understanding their folks who live in our communities. I wanted to mention just quickly something that was said earlier. You know, Jesus would want us to tell the truth, would he not? This was not true that was just said about me, and you can find that out by looking at the city clerk's office. And I could not say something. I believe I have over 300 donations from individuals with as little as $10 all the way up. But, you know, elections are expensive, and I have great support. But I did not do what Andrew said, and I have to address that. I will tell the truth. I will make sure that I represent you. Help is on the way, and I ask you to consider and vote for me for mayor, because we need somebody who's not in government right now to help use their experience to run this city of Colorado Springs that we all love. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe in telling the truth, so go look at the financial disclosure forms. Not everyone who's on there says, I'm a developer. So, how would I implement home rule? That's important. One of the big things that concerns me is the lack of understanding that the average American has about our Constitution and the lack of constitutional literacy. You know, when the Supreme Court rules that something is unconstitutional, that's not in the Constitution, that the Supreme Court gets to decide that. That's an implied power of the Supreme Court, and it's not held by the Supreme Court by itself. Lower levels of courts can rule things unconstitutional. Juries can rule things unconstitutional. There's a doctrine of the lesser magistrate, which says that officials who are in lower positions can interpose themselves in favor of their constituents when there's tyranny being imposed from above. That's an important thing that we need to be willing to stand up for. We do have home rule as a city, and it's important that we exercise that. In terms of what I would have done lately, no, I would never have closed your business down due to COVID. No, I would never impose a mandate on you as to your health and what you need to do in order to do that. No, I would never have imposed a mask mandate. Anyone who wanted to impose that from a higher level of government would have had to go over me. So I never closed down because it wasn't constitutional, and I personally declared it unconstitutional in my own business. So I would do the same for you.
Daryl Glenn, and this is something I kind of alluded to in my openings, because I want you to go back and I want you to think about when COVID started. I want you to think about the expansion of government from the federal and state level into our daily lives. This is why home rule authority is absolutely important, because we have to be able to say no. We have to have people in office that are willing to say no, that are willing to go to court, that are willing to go to the mat and fight. Because I can tell you what is going to happen, because if you think that we're finished with all the COVID overreach, you better wake up. I'm running to wake people up. All you need to do is go to my website. I'm very clear on what I am going to do, because I am absolutely going to fight. There is no way I'm going to allow a business to be shut down. There is no way I'm going to say that people have to be vaccinated. There's no way I'm going to tell people that they have to wear a mask. These are things that we need to stand up for. And as a retired lieutenant colonel, the thing that is most repugnant is what they did to our military. Forcing our military members to get vaccinated, kicking them out of the military, and now all of a sudden they're saying, okay, you don't have to be vaccinated. Why don't you let the people that got kicked out come back in and compensate them for that? Colorado Springs is a welcoming place for any person that's in the military. If you have been disenfranchised, this is your home, because we're going to stand up for you. We're going to fight for you. And every citizen that's here, I can promise you, if the federal government or the state government is going to try to do something, I'm going to use our home rule authority to protect you.
Thank you again, Lojinos Gonzalez Jr. And clearly utilize it to nullify some bad laws, bad mandates coming down from the state. We need to be able to do that. The city is different than the county. The county is not home rule, so we don't have some of these authorities. The city does. Let's use it. Make sure you have a leader, as we just talked about, somebody who is willing to stand up for our residents, stand up and be an advocate for our citizens, and to protect your rights. So examples of that, as we didn't have home rule at the county, but still we joined the lawsuit on the election violation that the state put out. We sued, we won, unanimous, even if it's a Democrat-controlled Colorado Supreme Court, we won that, and we were willing to fight for that. And I was the voice that did it. we took about 3 weeks and the other commissioners joined on. So somebody who is willing to exercise that power, I think there's 2 or 3 of us who are willing to do that. I've demonstrated that ability to do that. I did that on the Board of Health, 2 strong voices against the mask mandates. Dave Donaldson and myself fought every time we could. They passed a resolution. Dave Donaldson and I voted against that because I'm supporting you, I'm being an advocate for you, and a voice for you. The other thing, where was the city during the last 4 years on this issue? During COVID, we sued, we fought. The city has the home rule. We have one member up here who is on city council, didn't join a lawsuit, didn't fight like he should have. So we need fighters, we need advocates for our community, and I have a proven record of being your voice and being a fighter for you and Colorado Springs, and I want to continue that as your next mayor. Thank you.
Home rule, that's kind of like the rules you have in your house. I had my home rules. My girls didn't like it too much. Smart girls, they'd start telling me about the Constitution. I told them, home rule here, Constitution starts on the sidewalk. So we truly have to have home rule. We're not like Denver, we're not like Boulder, we're not like Pueblo. We're Colorado Springs, one of the greatest cities in Colorado. We need to make sure we keep that as well. I think it's really great that those who've been in office before tells you what they've done. Well, for us who hasn't been in office, we haven't had that opportunity. But we're gonna fight for your rights just as much as those who were voted in. We wanna make sure, COVID, hey, you know, it's between you and God. God is the only medicine we really need. He's the one that takes care of us. If it's your time to be called, it's your time to be called. We truly need to make sure the direction is in the right way. If we don't, then we do become like other cities, and we can't do that. We've got to fix everything from our safety to homelessness to housing. I'm probably the only candidate who put 1,000 hours in a police unit. I volunteered with El Paso County Office, and I've patrolled with the county, the state, and the city. I patrolled in Santa Clara, California. I patrolled up in Denver. So I know what the problems are as far as what we need to do to be safe. You don't have to be elected to know what you need to do. You just have to follow the words of the Lord. Everybody's the same, and treat everybody as you would treat your own family members. Thank you.
Jim Miller again, yay. All right, so obviously with all this stuff, you keep hearing leader this, leader that, but where's all the representation, right? Nobody wants to represent us. They want to keep leading us like we're cattle or something. Not hearing anything about, you know, doing what we're saying or what we want. Home rule authority, your home, your rule, your authority. That's what it should be. Not leading you to this or that, okay? I'm not a politician. I don't have all the damn answers. That's just kind of how it is, all right? Let's be straight about it. But you should be able to make your own decisions, your own choices, and none of your rights and freedom should ever be infringed upon. The COVID stuff was a freaking mess, a disaster, terrible. Look, you know, where were you, Williams? Come on, buddy. You're up here. Where were you when we needed you, bud? Gotta ask you. Gotta ask you. There's always plenty of time left, but let's give Chris a chance to talk too, right?
Thank you, Jim. Christopher Mitchell. I view the office of mayor as a trusted stewardship. The Bible talks about stewardship as being one who protects, but is also held accountable. It's a two-way street. So as mayor, I am a constitutional conservative that believes in protecting your rights. And that means Second Amendment rights, property rights, so forth and so on. But also, if I'm mayor, I need to be accessible to you and accountable to you for my actions while I'm in that office. And that has to do with having integrity. And so, before you even start talking about what you're gonna do as mayor, you have to have integrity. And that is really the baseline for being a public official, is having integrity. And there's people running for mayor on the stage that don't have integrity right now because they have their hand in the cookie jar, and they play a good game when they're up here on stage. And so basically, the Bible talks about not having the appearance of doing wrong. And that's what you need in a quality elected official, not even having the appearance of doing wrong. And so that goes back to accountability. So home rule authority is a two-way street. It's trusting the person in office that they're going to watch your back and that they're going to do the right thing. And that goes back to accountability. Thank you very much.
My name is Yemi again. I want to start from a different place and then get to home rule. Almost 27 years ago, I immigrated to this great country. I traded that flag, green, white, green, for this incredible flag, Old Glory. I am fascinated with this country. I love our Constitution. I'm fascinated with the three branches of government and how that applies even locally. I know things are not great, but I want to present a different way to think about it. I mean, we're still better than most parts of the world. What we have is good, including the ability to lead from a perspective of home rule, that is, empowering decision-making from the most local level. After all politics is made at the most local level. And that is the opportunity that we have in front of us. And here's the thing, friends, when we talk about what home rule is and how we execute home rule, you need a leader who can listen and who can engage the sectors and the cultures in the different neighborhoods in this city, or else home rule is moot point. That is the truth. And so one of the things I'm proud that I bring to this stage and I bring to this city, it's my triple strength leadership. That phrase comes out of Harvard Review. And what it is that leaders that have impact and experience in all three sectors of our community, private, nonprofit, and civic. Because to get things done, we need to engage all three sectors to the mayor's office. And that's what you can expect out of my administration. Thank you.
So it's always wonderful to be with a group, and it's at times like this that I appreciate the psalmist's counsel in Psalms 91:3, where it says, "He shall protect thee from false accusation." Because here's the reality. We at the city have done a number of steps, and let me talk about one of those on the home rule side. The legislature, last year, I testified against it, passed a bill that gives every single special district, that little shopping center business district you go in, to regulate and to take away your right to carry concealed. It was a state law. On city council, we adopted a policy to say that the special districts in Colorado Springs will not have that authority. And I managed to get even my liberal colleagues to vote in favor of that, and it passed 9-0. After we did it, the county commission followed suit. But that is an example of how we can respond to overreach at Denver and in Washington, D.C. As mayor, I will continue to make sure that we fight for those issues, that we fight to protect the rights of our community. With respect to COVID, we used our home rule ability and our ability as a local government to support restaurants who had been unfairly shut down by gubernatorial mandates. And so we established a rebate program for the sales tax that normally would have been paid, and so those retailers were able to recover money to make up for the fact that they were ridiculously shut down with no notice, right? You just buy a huge food order, and then the announcement comes down that you're shut down the next day. So those are some steps we did take at the city. Thanks.
Okay, Wayne, you might want to grab the mic again. So 60 seconds. What is your definition or understanding of a strong mayor?
So my understanding of a strong mayor is someone who is working with city council. We've got two different models. This will be the election you are now deciding the third strong mayor. I like the model that John Suthers has followed, which is to work cooperatively with council. For those who don't follow that, we have a balanced budget that is passed every year. We have funded critical public safety needs. We have prioritized transportation infrastructure, but the mayor has done it by working with council. I'm honored to have the support of John Suthers and others because I believe in that collaborative approach. So the strong mayor is supposed to lead, but he's also supposed to listen. Thanks.
Colorado Springs is one of 3 cities in the state of Colorado with a strong mayor system. That's Denver, Pueblo, and Colorado Springs. It's a tremendous opportunity for public service. I want to flip that term strong. What being strong means is being the lead servant. So when we talk about public servant, it is a leader who is saying yes to serve you, a leader who is using the influence of the office for the good of our resident. And that's really important, not just strong as in strength and I'm going to do what I want to do or I'm going to serve the limited people I want to serve. It's a leader who's intent in serving and being a mayor for all people. And that's what true strength looks like. Thank you.
Christopher Mitchell. My definition of a strong mayor is that you are electing the CEO of the city who will run the departments and promote a vision through those departments, make appointments to those departments, and will exist within a framework of checks and balances that is provided by the city auditor, the city attorney, and other entities that will be appointed by the city council. Our current form of government has the checks and balances of what I call the legislative branch, which is city council, the city attorney, and then the mayor's office is viewed as the administrative branch. So in my view, that's what a strong mayor is that the CEO of the city. Thank you very much.
Jim Miller. Strong mayor better be able to bench like 400 pounds. That's all I can say. And he better be able to squat about 1,000 or he's not very strong, is he? Strong mayor is someone that'll collaborate when it's time to collaborate, but will also stand for the people, with the people. If something is going wrong or out of place or out of wrong, right? City council doing something wrong or some other division's doing something wrong, they're going to do something. You say they're doing something wrong, or even if the mayor's doing something wrong, they're going to be strong enough to be, that's wrong, don't do that. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Martinez is going to tell you what he thinks now.
Yes, I am. So I'm going to up the weight. Like Jim, a strong mayor should be able to lift 1,000 pounds, but still be able to open a 20-pound door when you knock at it. That's the big difference. It seems that people get elected, they forget who elected them, and we can't do that any longer. They have to be responsible. A strong mayor is somebody like me who walks through the neighborhoods at nighttime to see who can afford to have their lights on, to see who's able to work on their house. Strong mayor goes to the Merriam Soup Kitchen like I do and sit among the homeless and have a meal with them, walk over to their camps and sit with them with their camps. Strong mayor gets in a police unit next to his partner and goes through the whole shift. Not once, but many, many times. A strong mayor is somebody who represents everyone. But a strong mayor needs to understand what's happening in different neighborhoods. We're like 2 different cities. We have the north and we have the south. The south is beginning to fall. We need to be able to prop them up. And once again, a strong mayor walks where no one else will.
Again, Lojinos Gonzalez. So the strong mayor, someone who's hands-on and effective in helping to manage our departments for the city, but also collaborative in working with our city council member and all the stakeholders. And then, most importantly, is an advocate for the people, for the residents, for our great city. And I can be that advocate because I have the demonstrated record of doing that. We want to make sure that the mayor's most important roles are 2 things: public safety, making sure that you are safe in our homes and our neighborhoods. And the other one is developing a smart, efficient budget that doesn't add any more tax burdens to you. And I'm not going to oppose any taxes. I'm going to oppose any tax increases, because we can do that without raising your taxes or add more burdens. And then lastly, ensures that all our residents and all our businesses are treated fairly and justly and does not play favorites. Wayne Williams plays favorites for his favored developer donors.
Daryl Glenn. For me, a strong mayor fears God. For me, the strong mayor, when he needs guidance, is going to fall on his knees and going to ask for help from God. For me, I'm going to make sure that the strong mayor is not going to fear the World Health Organization. The strong mayor is absolutely going to stand up for your rights and stand in the gap. The strong mayor is going to be very clear that we have tough challenges ahead, but we need to be able to lead to make sure that we protect our local and home rule authority. That's what this strong mayor is going to do. I'm going to protect you, I'm going to step in the gap, and I'm going to be a strong mayor, whether it's for a single mom or a CEO. We're all going to be treated the same, but guess what? We're going to win this.
So I think one of the greatest tests of strength is humility. Being able to think, oh, I've got the power to do something, and then not doing it because it's not the right thing to do. You know, unfortunately, we've got people who've been in office for a very long time, and they have Denver envy, and they want to take your money and do a lot of public works that are fancy things, and an Olympic museum that nobody goes to, or whatever. I think that the city government is unnecessary. I'm the only one up here who's willing to say that. Black Forest might not be your cup of tea, but it's not a desolate wasteland. There's only 3 things that the city government should be doing: public safety, public works, and public parks. And I will say no to everything else, and that's going to take some strength.
So I could talk about the mechanics of what the strong mayor form of government is. Ex officio on the utilities board, basically a lot of what's been set up here in terms of administration versus legislation. But let me talk about this. We have a homelessness issue, folks, if you haven't noticed that, and I hear it everywhere I go. We have to be tough, we have to be compassionate, and we have to be innovative. Tough, enforce the laws that are already on the books. Compassionate, work with the families that are living on the edge and need a little bit of a hand up. And third, innovative in terms of how we innovate and adopt policies that help us actually move this forward and solve the problem of homelessness. As your mayor, as our mayor, I will do that. Sally Clark, thank you.
Okay, this next question will be answered by Sally, Andrew, and Daryl. In your first 6 months, what are your 2 top priorities?
Thanks. Hello? There we go. Thanks. Great question. So first of all, my 3 top priorities are crime and reducing crime. Number 2 is to work on the homelessness issue and to look for local solutions. And number 3 is to look at the housing crisis and see what we can do. The first thing I'm going to do when I walk into City Hall is create a 30, 60, 90-day plan, is to put a transition team together that will work with us so that they are experts in various areas and help us set a roadmap forward for the next 4 years. I will look completely at the budget, look where there's waste, look where there's efficiencies, and make sure that we revise that and work in tandem with City Council to create a strategic plan that for the next 4 years will keep our beautiful, magnificent city magnificent. Help is on the way. Thank you.
So the top 2 priorities are obviously going to be crime and roads. So thank you. Yeah, we're number 1 in the nation in terms of car thefts and catalytic converter thefts. We've got fentanyl out of control, homelessness is out of control. Those things need to be dealt with, and they need to be dealt with strongly. But then we also need to get our roads taken care of. That's the number one thing I hear people talking about when I go out and talk to people. We keep getting these taxes, 2C, PPRTA, we keep passing them, and yet our roads are still junk. We need to get those things done. So again, instead of being in the pocket of certain special interests or being grandiose dreams of Denver emulation, we need to keep it basic. Cops, roads, and then parks would be third.
My top priorities are going to be, the first thing on day one, we are going to publicly state that fixing our growing crime problem is number one, and that Colorado Springs is going to be the safest city in the nation. The second thing what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at every single program within the city, because we need to become leaner and more efficient. And all the programs that can be privatized, we are going to allow them to be privatized, and we're going to reappropriate those dollars and put them into core services and get back to the basics, fixing roads, potholes, neighborhood parks, those types of things. That is critical for our community. And the third thing, you didn't ask for three, I'm going to give you three. But we're going to talk about regulations, because the government needs to have the smallest footprint in your life. And the government has expanded well beyond its bounds, and it needs to stop.
He got all, Jack, there we go. He got all that in a minute. All right, so next question, Lojinos. Lawrence and Jim will answer. Besides hiring and retaining more police officers, what specific thing will you do to ensure public safety?
Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have a sit down with the police chief to make sure we're on the same page on issues. Our homicide numbers in the Colorado Springs went up 22% last year. That's unacceptable. Fentanyl deaths of our youth, unacceptable. The call response times, the previous chief acknowledged high call response or slow times. We need to fix that and reverse that. I will do that by making sure we are addressing the manning and authorized strengths, getting additional dollars. Once again, looking at that budget, finding the excess, finding the waste, and get it to the priorities that we care about. That is going to be our priority. That's public safety and reducing crime. I have the experience working with law enforcement as a counter drug analyst and our law enforcement organizations, and so we can do that. The other thing, get our community together to make sure that we are meeting with the law enforcement leaders so that we're all on the same page as a community and that we're supporting our law enforcement. I am supported by the president of the Colorado's Pro-Police Rally because I have demonstrated that support for our law enforcement, for our people in blue.
If you truly want to understand crime, get in a unit. Be in that unit when the lights go on, when you answer a call for domestic violence, murder, attempted suicide. I did that, so I understand what it takes out there. I sat with my partners to ask them what it's going to take for them to stay. They let me know. Appreciation and better benefits. That's truly the thing that they truly need. If we don't change the way we treat our officers, we are going to lose more. Say hello to every officer you see. Shake his hand. Thank him, because he is there. I remember the calls that we would do out east, and we would call for backup, only to be told 45 minutes before someone was to get out there. So if they truly want to understand, get in a unit like I did. Then you will begin to understand what it takes to make sure we have crime disappearing from here. Inversion, second chance to judicial education. I taught the kids in high school, middle school, and grade school what happens when you cross the door at the courthouse. I'm the only one that did that. Thank you.
That's what happens when I move on. He asked me to repeat the question. So other than staffing, that was not the right, yeah. Yeah, that was right. Other than staffing police, how would you help solve crime in Colorado Springs?
All right, Jim Miller, solving some crime, huh? That sounds like a lot of fun, don't it? All right, anyways, so first off, let's start off with putting the pedophiles and the rapists 5 miles away from our schools, 5 miles away from our victims, not allowing them in our neighborhoods unless the whole neighborhood approves. Let's do that. Let's stop letting the pedophiles and the rapists out if they're going to be homeless. Because you're just taking one problem and compiling it into another problem and then wanting me to care and you to care about the homeless, and we don't know who's who, what's what. And I don't know about you, but I'm not helping a pedophile, a rapist, or a damn sex trafficker. So let's start with that, and then we'll go from there. Sound like a good idea? We can get let's get a good, effective police chief, for crying out loud. A more proactive freaking sheriff, right? Let's get some stuff actually going on with people from the community that got skin in the game, that actually care. Should never be a money game. Should be I love and care and want it safe where I live.
I feel like I should start telling my name before I speak every time. All right, so, and take my 1 minute, right? All right, so next will be Christopher, Yemi, and Wayne. What can the mayor do to ensure expansion will not run us out of water?
Yes, that's a very good question. I am proposing what I call graduated growth planning. And what that is a graduated approach to our growth such that we are consolidating our resources, whether it be natural resources such as water or the conservation of open space. Those are all resources we have to manage as we grow. And currently the city does not adopt any type of graduated growth planning. They have an erratic program called Retool COS, which is a flex zoning initiative that came out of the planning department, which is totally against conservation, which is totally against the developments to the east and in terms of conserving water. So I'd like to replace Retool COS with a more graduated growth plan. Thank you very much.
Water. Water is on everyone's mind. The heart of the question is, do we have enough water to keep up with the existing demands and I'll expand the future needs? The heart of the solution is around sustainable and intelligent growth. Friends, here's the thing. You need to ensure that you have your trust in government, that your government is going to make the right decision on your behalf. Because we have to balance the growing tension need with our demand for our natural resources. In 2006, Colorado Springs adopted an annexation plan, and there's wisdom in this annexation plan that is relevant for the conversation today. Number one, it says the citizens are owners to the water for themselves. Number two, it says that we're not imposed by law to provide water for outside the corporate limits. And number three and final, we must consider the water needs outside the city, but ensure that we have water for the needs today. And that's how I will lead this conversation. Thank you.
So let me tell you briefly what some of the things we've done during the time I've chaired Colorado Springs Utilities. First, we have worked with farmers in the Arkansas Valley to upgrade their irrigation systems and buy the water that is saved. This is a win-win partnership where we still get the agricultural production from the Arkansas, but we as a community are able to save the water. Did that in part by funding it by the imposition of a $5,800 fee on developers for each new house. Second thing we've done is adopted an ordinance that says before we annex, we must have a 28% buffer, meaning that we have enough water both for now and the future. But we did it in a specific requirement as opposed to the old vague rule, which was simply you had to have enough water for the, quote, foreseeable future, close quote, whatever that might be. So those are two specific steps I've taken. Thank you.
We're going to snake back. Wayne, Jimmy. I recently visited a fire station on a school field trip. Someone asked if they were concerned about how fast the city is growing. The firemen were in agreement about the added stress of longer response times because of all the new neighborhoods. What will you do to address this public service issue?
Thanks for the question. Let me talk about a couple things we have done. We have added for the first time a public safety fee on developers for every new home that is built. That fee goes to buy new fire apparatus and build new fire stations. During the time I've been on City Council, we have added 3 new fire stations, and we've added 66 new firefighters. I'm honored to have the support of the Colorado Springs professional firefighters, Local 5, because they know of my commitment to ensuring we have sufficient resources to address our fire needs. We've also adopted a fire mitigation fund that was approved by the voters that allows us to mitigate before that fire occurs. So those are some steps I've taken during the time I've been on City Council. I will continue those steps and make sure we continue to address those needs as your next mayor. Thank you.
So I had the wonderful opportunity to do a fire ride-along. Got to witness the women and men in their work and see firsthand the rewards and the challenges about their job. And when I asked, what are the challenges that you anticipate in the future, it's exactly what we're talking about. It's around growth, aging equipment. We need better equipment as our cities grow. We need to ensure that we have new fire stations and that we are having the staff, the firefighters for the future of our city to meet the growing demands of the growth of our city. So friends, when we talk about growth, it's not just water. It's the other resources. It's our public safety resources. It's our fire mitigation. These are things that we have to keep in mind. And here's what's important is that our growth conversations, our infrastructure conversations need to be on par with our growth conversation. And that's how I would be leading in this next season of our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As an engineer, I see that there's a disconnect by the way we manage things in this city with respect to our growth. We have a planning department which will say we want to add new developments over here or a multifamily development over on this side of town, but they will say in the commission meetings, planning commission meetings, they will say, we do not take into account fire mitigation protocol. So as we grow as a city, we need to integrate our fire mitigation policies into our planning review processes, because that is critical. It is foolhardy to grow a city when you do not have integration with core competencies for mitigation of fire and public safety.
Okay, Jim, Lawrence, and Lojinos. As mayor, what is your policy regarding housing development, especially in the Black Forest community?
Well, Chris kind of touched on some of it, making sure there's some good fire mitigation already put into place for it. Housing development, I'm not going to lie to you, that's not my specialty. But I can tell you this, I'd at least find somebody that's much smarter than me at housing development. Let's remember I'm a Marine, right? That means I'm just smart enough to count my crayons before and after I eat them, okay? I'm not the housing development guy, but there is a department and division for that, okay? I can find someone that's much smarter than me about that. Let's be realistic and honest. I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? Martinez is gonna answer the question, and probably a better answer because he's done this mayor thing a bunch of times.
He's actually right. I ran in 2015, okay, because we needed the voice of a regular person. I ran in 2019 as well. Everybody waited till John was out of office, then they decided to run. I ran against him. Just like everything, housing in Black Forest, it's your place. It's where you live. You've got your community. You guys are able to answer, do you want to increase housing or you don't want to? It's your place. You wake up and go to sleep every time. There's certain areas that we have to make sure we have to have housing. It's incredible that your kids graduate from high school but got no place to live. It's incredible how the push starts from the north all the way down to the south. You've got kids living 4 or 5 to one apartment. You've got families living in a 2-bedroom that are 1 or 2. So it's your choice of how you want it there. You've bought your land. If you wish to put more housing, that's great. But we need more housing here and there. And to answer about the fire department, it's really great somebody goes around for just one ride. Every time we encountered a call, we encountered the fire department. Developers need to make sure there's at least 3 units in every place they build.
Thank you. So we need to come together to identify smart long-term growth decisions that take into account our water and take into account all the stakeholders who are making smart decisions. Things such as access to essential services, building in areas where we have already the police and fire that's going to help keep costs down, and looking at safety issues for our public, like evacuation modeling that needs to be taken into account so that residents are kept safe. We need to make sure as well that somebody talked about adding new fees. We should not be adding new fees. We should be cutting fees, cutting regulation so that our housing is more affordable. And the last thing is making sure that we preserve areas where it makes sense to preserve them. I voted against Flying Horse North because it was not compatible with the Black Forest. I am willing to stand up for residents and I'm accountable to you, not our developers. There are some candidates who will do everything that the developers tell them to do. You need somebody, we deserve somebody who will speak for you and advocate for you.
Okay, Daryl, Andrew, and Sally, I had two questions here, but one was more fun for me. So I'm going to ask the fun one. Probably not. All right. How do you propose to maintain separation of church and state while you're mayor?
Daryl Glenn. I absolutely love this question because I honestly believe, and I had a conversation with an individual the other day because he was asking me whether or not I was going to sign proclamations, whether or not I would support other displays of what I would say things that divide the community. And the answer is no. I want to be very clear. The city is going to be neutral, and that's the best way to be able to protect all of our freedoms and liberty. Because when you start thinking about using the government to advocate one particular position over another, somebody is going to be offended. With all due respect to the flag with regard to that was placed on City Hall, we would have had a different discussion if we had asked for a cross to be placed on City Hall. So the city is going to be neutral to maximize everybody's freedom and liberty, because when we are neutral and we stay out of that, it allows people to be able to express themselves the right way.
I'm Andrew Dalby, and I am a Christian. That's how I see the world. I think C.S. Lewis said it, that Christianity was like the sun. It wasn't just that he could see it. It was by which he saw everything else. I'm also a scientist, so I see things through that lens as well. Fact is, when I look at the world, that's how I see things. So that's how the country was founded, on people who shared that worldview and that way of seeing things. However, we do have freedom of religion in this country, and I will not be imposing my viewpoint on other people. Daryl's right. There's certainly, we need to make sure that we aren't going the other way also, that we need to protect people of faith from having their beliefs damaged as well. So church, separation of church and state is fundamental to our society, but yeah, sorry.
Sorry. So I would say, I go back to my opening remarks about family, faith, and service. You really can't separate the two, and I'll tell you how I see that. When I first got on the Board of County Commissioners in 2005, I was stunned that there was no invocation at the county commission meetings. And so I suggested to my commissioners, my fellow commissioners, that we instate invocations again. And you cannot believe the pushback we got. But we stood our ground. And I could only get it done every other week. And I believe, I don't know, I could ask one of these folks up here, that they are doing it now on a regular basis. And I'm proud of that. Because I think it gives us ground, it gives us a grounding, and it gives us a look at how we approach things. Now, I loved working with the faith-based community in many aspects of El Paso County and at the city. And I think that we need to embrace that while still respecting everyone. Thank you.
Okay, we have 9 minutes remaining. which means everyone will answer this question. We will begin with Sally. Please recognize that, well, A, I'm in charge of the questions, but B, it's a church, right? And we want people to understand that we think with a biblical worldview, and we function in that manner here. And so the question to all candidates is, what scripture do you use daily to guide your life?
So I think of James 1:5, that if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him, or her in this case. I believe that really God provides us with the guidance that we do, which was based on the last question that I answered, and that we have to look within every single day to make sure that we are living up to the expectations, that we are being truthful in what we do, that we are being passionate and compassionate in what we do, and that we're being honest about how we live our daily lives, that we respect our marriage. And mine is 42 years with this man right here who served our country. Thank you to all of our veterans in this audience today, too. Thank you very much for the opportunity to answer this question. I love my faith, I love my husband, and I am a Christian. Thank you.
So my wife and I homeschool our 6 children, and we do thank you. We do a Bible study all the time. Right now we were studying Job, the book of Job, because I figured if I was going to run for office, there was going to be a lot of suffering and false friends. But our family verse is Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, if there is anything, let's see, I had to try to remember it. It's hard to do on stage. I'm sorry. If there is anything true, if there's anything noble, if there's anything just, if there is anything pure, if there is anything lovely, if there is anything of good report, meditate on these things. I missed one. I'm sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head. But that's one that we try to mention routinely in our family because it helps to keep our mind straight. Oh, and it's my wife's birthday.
He said it's his wife's birthday. They cut his mic off, so. Daryl Glenn. For me, it's Proverbs 14 through 23. When we start talking about the biblical work ethic, I think about that because it's the story of my life and what my parents had ingrained in me and how important that was to be able to have that biblical work ethic. And I also look at it, especially running for government, that's exactly what the federal government is destroying. The government is absolutely tying us to them. And what we need to do is realize that we need to, especially people of faith, we need to cut that tie and become more self-sufficient. And it is destroying that biblical work ethic. And that's why each and every day I am reminded of the importance of being able to be that example and reinstill that fire in people that there's dignity and work. And that's what we need to continue to remind people.
Thank you. And for me, it's 2 Timothy 4:7. I have competed well. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And for me, like Daryl, I went to the Air Force Academy. I was a cadet. I came from a small agriculture town. My parents were farm laborers. So my small school, we didn't have advanced classes. I struggled that freshman year. And at my church, at the academy, they had the cadet chapel, they had bulletins, they had handouts, and they had this scripture many times. And so for me, I was following that. It helped me get past that hard, difficult freshman year. Every time there was difficulties in those 4 years at the academy, it helped me push forward. It helped me make sure that I was able to compete, graduate, and I keep that now because there are always those difficulties in our lives. And you want to compete well. You want to make sure that you're fighting to continue and making sure that you're doing everything you can. And the race isn't over until we're finally with God, our Father in heaven. But it reminds me to compete well and keep the faith.
For me, it's not so much a scripture, it's a prayer. Our Father who art in heaven. I say that prayer every time when I feel low or when I'm feeling well. God is always next to me. He's always telling me what I need to do. He inspires me every day. He helps me when I pray for my children, your children, and all children. Children are my passion. I do so many programs to help the children of Colorado Springs. I believe in faith and I believe in you. I believe that you guys have the answers to what we need to have. It's you guys who dictate to us, and it's the Lord who tells us what we need to do. Thank you.
Jim Miller, honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not religious. I don't have a psalm. I don't have a prayer. I do have some stuff that I teach my kids and my nieces and nephews to do to kind of keep everything going. I teach them to keep their head up even when life's down. I teach them they're not entitled to anything that they haven't worked for or learned. That's all they're entitled to. I've taught them that we live on our feet, not on our knees. There's not much to anything else. I taught them, hey, we make solutions, not problems. I'm not a religious guy, but if someone ever tells you not to practice your religion, regardless of whatever it may be, I'll definitely fight for you and take a punch in the face if they try to make you not do it. And that's about all I can say about it.
Thank you very much. I don't remember the exact verse, but I can just give you the basic gist of it, is when Paul was saying that, he says, I run the race with excellence, not as one beating the air. And he closes out that with saying that I run the race with excellence so that after I have run, I will need to watch that I am not disqualified. And so basically what he's saying is that when we do something in life, we give it our best, leave the results up to God, and know that we have a clear conscience when we're done doing it.
Thank you again for having us. In the book of Matthew, chapter 22, it says a religious expert came to test Jesus. It says the expert of the law. I think it's interesting it says law because as a mayor, we have to adhere to the rule of law. He said, what's the best way to live? And Jesus says, everything that we do, all the law and prophets hang on these two commandments. Love God and love all people. Friends, we make this too complicated, especially these days. If we get back to the basics of everything that we do is all about loving God and loving people, man, our world would be a better place. And that's the type of leader you can expect from this mayor. Thank you again.
When the city clerk drew the ballot order and I found out I was last, I thought of Mark 10:31 where it says in the last first. But that's not what I live my life by. What is the critical one for me? First, I agree with Yimi's selection as well, because that is where all the law hangs on, what everything hangs on. But James talks about the difference between people who say things and the people who do things. And if a brother or sister be destitute and naked, and you say, depart in peace, what doth it profit? And so one of the things I've tried to do as I've answered questions today is to talk about things I've actually done. Because I believe that the works that we do as an elected official matter going forward. Thank you.
All right, so a couple things. I will say this, Jim, much of your answers may not have had a verse to back them, but they are biblical. All right? And Yemi, it doesn't get easier once they're 24, 23, and 19. I'll let you know that. And lastly, someone asked a question that I will answer by reading their question. Do you guys even actually read these, or are the candidates given questions beforehand? There is your answer. I have read your question and the answer. All right, so I'd like to, for all the candidates, please stand. Let's all give them a hand.